Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, folks. Yes, we're driving it home, but at least for this first hour, it won't be with Patti Vasquez. It is I, your occasional guest fill-in, Elliott Serrano, the Chief Geek Officer for the Patti Vasquez Show, as well as kind of like the expert of all things geeky. I've also assumed the new title of political humorist. So because I've done enough of the talk show circuit here on CPT as well as on conservative radio, I've been dubbed a political humorist. I'm going to be leaning into that a bit. I do need to I need to put together a staff to handle, all my jokes. I just wish I had the insight and ability to bring out humor in the most tragic things, like, let's say, a Jon Stewart does, or any of the folks over on The Daily Show and any of the political talk shows, the political comedy shows that are there. I have a tremendous amount of respect for those folks because they are able to take things, both inform and entertain. And that's, I got to credit The Daily Show this week for something that I learned. We'll get into that. But anyway, yes, it's me, Elliott Serrano, guest host here on Driving Home with Patti Vasquez, coming to you on the airways on WCPT AM 820, as well as on the Heartland Signal. Today, a quick rundown. We will have a couple guests. I've got at 5:30, we will be speaking with Lissa Levy, an independent candidate for the District 3 Trustee of Skokie. We'll be talking to her about the upcoming election. And at 6:15, we do have a scheduled interview, or I guess it's a monthly phone interview, with Ellie Krug of KTNF in the Twin Cities. Ellie Krug, who's the weekend host of The Illegal Trans Woman. I did a little research on Ellie, and incredible story, incredible person. Really looking forward to diving into what their work has been as far as being outspoken for the rights of trans people in the United States of America. But yeah, so there is a possibility. I don't want to make promises. There's this thing. My dad would do this thing where I would ask him, hey, can we do this, or will we ever do that? Like, I would say, Dad, can you take me to Disney World? And he would go, someday we will go to Disney World. Now, someday you usually didn't meant never. Along those lines, I do not want to make a promise I can't keep. So I will say, with a slight reservation, although she did tell me she'll be here, Patti will be in studio at 6 o'clock. So you'll only have to endure me for about an hour. Patti was on the set of a television show that's filmed here in the city, had a little guest spot, and she teased to me that she's got a story to tell that I'm really looking forward to hearing. So yeah, that's going to be at the 6 o'clock hour. Before I dive too much into my own thing, I also want to encourage you to call in. Of course, the number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. You can call and text. And I'm like, I always like looking at the text line. Last time, and this happens every time I host, I encourage you all to text, and many of you really do prefer the text over the call, and I appreciate that. Some folks don't want to go on the air. You don't want to talk. You might feel a little nervous, talking on the phone and knowing that, pretty much the entire city of Chicago is going to be able to hear you. So if you want to text in your comments, your concerns, your opinions, I, of course, read every text. In fact, when I first sit down in this host chair to get the show started, I will often click through the text line to see what kind of news Joan's been getting. And boy, Joan gets a lot of texts too. Man, that is something. Although she did have a great show. Two things. First, I will never get over Joan Esposito saying my name and introducing me as coming up next on the air. Again, I have been a fan of Joan Esposito's forever as someone who is deeply ingrained in Chicago media and got into Chicago media because of the people who came before. Whenever she says Elliott Serrano's next, that is, I mean, the media geek in me just does a little skip jump. But beyond that, hearing her refer to Elon Musk's Doge posse as the flying monkeys, I've not heard that one before. So someone's got to make a meme or a cartoon, of Elon Musk, unless this has already happened and I just missed it, and Joan was referencing that. Has someone done an artistic rendering of Elon Musk as the Wicked Witch of the West and his Doge posse as little flying monkeys doing their thing? I mean, Wicked was pretty popular movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone already did that. Still, very amusing, incredibly amusing to hear that sort of thing. And as always, I am tremendously grateful to Joan Esposito for saying my name every time. That is so cool. 773-763 WCPT 773-763-9278 is the number. So I referred to the Daily Show when I first came on, and a certain realization hit me when they were kind of doing this one bit where they were showing footage of Donald Trump signing yet another executive order. And if you've seen these whole bits when he might be on CNN or MSNBC or wherever, he sits down, someone will read the executive order and then put it in front of Trump, and then he signs it. And in this most recent case, there was one particular executive order where Trump said, "Tell us what it's about," and then he asked the guy what it meant. He didn't understand what was going on in the executive order, which made me realize that Donald Trump has essentially been diminished to an auto pen. I mean, that's essentially what they're doing. Everyone around him, they're creating the policy. People talked about, Project 2025. Trump has nothing to do with that. He heard nothing about it. And then you look at what was proposed in Project 2025 and the actual not legislation, but the actual executive orders that he's been signing off on the whole time. It's following Project 2025 quite closely. And he's just there, signing it. He's an auto pen. He doesn't even realize half the time what he's signing. And someone even made the joke that they could put in front of him a letter saying that he's resigning from the presidency of the United States, and he wouldn't realize that he was doing it, because I think he doesn't even pay attention to what he's signing. So it's President Auto Pen is kind of like the Trump Auto Pen, Trump, something like that. Yeah, but anyway, I just find it disappointing that there were so many people who had this idea that Trump was going to be some incredible leader that was going to make this great change in our country. And that's not, well, the change is happening, but not what a lot of folks voted for. All right, before we hit the break, I've got Jim in Chicago who's been waiting on the line. Thanks for calling in, Jim. Sorry for making you wait. You're on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez with guest host Elliott Serrano. How you doing?
Not too good. I've never seen a situation where a blackmailer of Trump, the criminally insane president, blackmailing international countries, Greenland, Ukraine, for their minerals, Canada, etc., blackmailing these countries, and then internal blackmail, suing CBS for $20 billion, suing every station there is, and if you criticize him, apparently he's got enough people with Cash Patel to blackmail you into silence. I mean, this is a completely criminally insane individual who has probably used blackmail himself all of his life. And he doesn't know anything about the country, the Constitution, or Project 2025, but he knows blackmail. you can see him using. He's using it with Zelensky. He's using it in Greenland. He's using it internationally, and he's using it internally. Firing people that investigated him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Blackmailing him in a situation where they lose their livelihood if they don't admit that they were fraudulent in investigating them. And this is blackmail, plain and simple. And I can't believe that we can't do anything about it. That is the most depressing thing about it. And we can't do a thing about a blackmailer, a mad blackmailer sitting in the White House. And the rest of the world is supposed to quake by this blackmailer's wishes. Anyway, that's all I have to say. It's too much.
No, I agree, Jim. And I will say this. I mean, this is something that I think the international community was preparing for when they saw that Trump took office. I'll be honest. First, yes, the Trump playbook kind of works here in the United States because our media just eats that stuff up. But the rest of the world has caught on, and they know after the last administration, they know kind of how Trump plays the game. They've already figured out that all you got to do is placate him and say, we're going to give you something, essentially already give him something he already agreed to, and then he will, claim it as a win. And yes, people will eat it up here in the United States thinking, oh, Trump and the art of the deal and blah, 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 when the rest of the world and the other countries are just snickering at him. This whole thing about buying Greenland and annexing Canada, that's not going anywhere. To me, the disappointing part is how you have so many people within the U.S. Congress who are enabling that sort of thing. And then speaking of the U.S. Congress, we say we can't do anything about it. Well, yes, we can do something about it, but that's unfortunately going to have to wait until the midterms, because I keep telling folks, keep your receipts. Keep those receipts. Everything that happens, everything that is happening now, everything that's happened within the past 30 days is, oh, my God, it's only been 30 days, and it feels like it's been longer. Everything that's happening now, that is falls on the lap of the Republican Party, of the GOP. And I'm sorry, I don't care if you're a conservative that doesn't agree with it. I don't care if you're a member of the GOP who's, I don't like it, but this is kind of what we need to do. I don't want to hear it. You're enabling it, and they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. Everything that happens is on the GOP, and come the midterms, they need to be held responsible for it. All right. Thanks for calling in, Jim. I've got a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk some more about the goings-ons of the day. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez and guest host Elliott Serrano.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Yeah, we're driving it home. But Patti is not in the studio yet. She's on her way in, I believe. Should be hitting the host chair by 6 o'clock. That's when she'll kind of like take over and bring us home. I don't know. The traffic out there has been kind of nutty, though. I left my home. I gave myself a little extra time to get in because I knew all the snow that we were supposed to get, and not so bad right now, but still a bit slushy. And I was on the expressway, saw one guy get himself all turned around, apparently going a little too fast for conditions. And folks, I give you credit, Chicago drivers, I give you all credit. I mean, I'm a Chicago driver too, but the Chicago drivers that act like it's nothing, like when it rains and it snows and they still drive, 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit. Now that's crazy and that's dangerous. And I'm sorry, I drive like a little old man on, the middle to the right lane, because I don't want to be that guy who gets turned around in the middle of the expressway. It's funny. Usually when I sit in this chair, I get more texts than calls. But today I'm getting calls. Hey, so let's go over to Dave in Hoffman Estates. How you doing, Dave? Welcome to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez. This is guest host Elliott Serrano. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Elliott. when you're talking about Trump, signing them orders and all of that kind of stuff, and didn't even know what he's signing, it kind of gave me a memory. Are you familiar with the movie Blazing Saddles?
Yep.
When Mel Brooks was signing all those like pardons or whatever, and he's like work, and then signing the. That's what Trump reminds me of. And then at the end, when he gets done, he holds up what he signed, kind of looking like a third grader showing his mom that he got an A on his test or something,
It's, the thing that's gotten me about, and this happened with the last time Trump was in office, I swear that they're trolling us half the time, that they do things that we've seen on television, on comedy shows, again, like Idiocracy. For folks who saw Idiocracy and you had El Macho, the Terry Crews wrestler, I swear that was Hulk Hogan at the RNC. And I'm like, are they doing this to troll the country and thinking that we're not going to see it? Because Lord knows I do see it. You had they had the announcement about the Warren Commission. They're releasing all these documents having to do with the JFK assassination, and the young woman who was up there announcing, we're going to be doing a little more investigating this, and the people involved with this investigation are going to be called in to speak on it. And I'm like, everyone who was in the Warren Commission is dead. There's no one to call in. It's like, how long ago that was? And they're trolling us or they have no self-awareness. Either one, it's not great.
Yeah. Oh, and then before I get off, I was reading one where the other day here that the Afghans who helped the U.S. fight the Taliban are left in limbo again by Trump's policy. These people that helped us out and stuff like that, basically their lives are in danger when they're still over in Afghanistan.
Right. No, right. And
now...
Go on, Dave. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I wasn't sure. But, when he had that new executive order to put the end of that program now, to get these people safe to America, now they're in a limbo, And I remember there was some vets that were doing something to try to get these guys home, over to the U.S. that helped them, And I hadn't heard no more on that. And then now this, that when Trump, put the kibosh to it again.
There was an actual movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal having to do with that particular issue, yes.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Dave, thanks for calling in. It's always good to talk to you. The whole issue, too, that with these Afghans who helped the fight against the Taliban being abandoned, the Afghan withdrawal of U.S. troops that happened under the Biden administration was essentially following the agreement that President Trump made. President Trump agreed the conditions under which it would take place, how it took place. Biden even had to delay the withdrawal for a few months for them to actually try to get things better in order. And yeah, it still got out of hand. But still, despite all that, despite that it was Trump's plan, Trump's agreement that was being followed, when it wasn't being followed fast enough, Trump criticized Biden. When it didn't go well or as well as he would want, Trump criticized Biden. And now with this thing going on with the Afghans, Trump is screwing them again. And I don't see anyone criticizing him like everyone criticized President Biden. It's just the whole thing. It's not what you do. It's that our guy is doing it or your guy is doing it. That's when we have a problem with it. All right, folks. The number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. You can call. You can text. Get your calls in now, folks. I do have a guest coming on at the bottom of the hour. So at that point, I won't be able to take in calls from everyone out there. And remember, you can text. I love reading the text line. And, I've got Brian in Joliet. Brian, who's holding on to talk to guest host Elliott Serrano. Welcome, Brian, to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because I'm disgusted with Trump's plans for the Palestinian people. And it seems to me that, not seems to me, from what I heard, he's saying that, first of all, I make a distinction between the Netanyahu government and the Israeli people. I support the state of Israel and the two-state solution. However, Trump's plans are essentially ethnic cleansing, I guess you'd call it. And he's saying that on Saturday at noon, all hell might break loose if 3 are not turned over. And Netanyahu, I make a distinction between Netanyahu and the Israeli people at large. Netanyahu's a fascist, just like Trump. And what we have here, it sounds like what they're articulating is like the Nazis under Hitler with the, at first, plan was to send the Jewish people out of Germany to other countries. And then in 1943, when the war started going terribly for the Germans, then they decided to the terrible, horrible Holocaust, the final solution. And there's I think, this is just terrible, and I think I know there are a lot of people protesting this, but I think that's another area that we cannot forget the plight of the Palestinian peoples, because it sounds like he wants to bomb them.
Well, it's that's what it sounds like. That's what it could be. Okay, and I'm going back to this whole thing about when Trump says things to the American media, he gets very little pushback. If anything, it gets consumed, regurgitated out there. No one, to me, first, that's not going to happen. Let's be honest. That's not going to happen. Gaza is not going to be redeveloped by the United States. The state of Israel cannot turn the West Bank over to the United States to be, a glorious, paradise, as Trump wants to say, because the Saudis and everyone else in that area is not going to handle it. And we should know by now that whenever the U.S. tries to occupy a country in the Middle East, that does not work. I mean, come on. Can we talk about how many years we fought an insurrection in Iraq until we finally pulled out? And then add to that yes, as you said, it's ethnic cleansing. It would be in violation of so many treaties, so many laws, international laws, and no one says that. You don't hear an outcry from anyone else in the political landscape, at least on the Republican Party, saying, "Hey, maybe we need to pump the brakes here and understand that's not a great idea." All we hear is justification and obfuscation over the real issues. And it's driving me nuts that this sort of thing keeps going. And it's only been 30 days. Brian, I'm sorry. So with that, I want to thank you for calling in. I got to hit a break right now. When we come back, I've got Lissa Levy of the candidate for the District 3 Trustee of Skokie. We're going to talk to her about the upcoming election here on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
We're driving it home with special guest host Elliott Serrano here sitting in for Patti. Patti will be in studio in about half an hour, so don't worry, you'll get your Patti fix in the middle of the week. So I'm just tiding us over until then. And now, before we get too further into other issues, we do have a special guest. She is the candidate for the District 3 Trustee of Skokie, Lissa Levy. Hi, Lissa.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. I asked how many times how to pronounce your name correctly, and did I get it? I got thrown off there a little.
You did get it. I'm telling you, my whole life, this is my story. So, Lissa Levy.
Okay, Lissa Levy. All the time, talking about you up to now, I was saying Levy. So apologies, but it's Lissa Levy, and yes, you are an independent candidate for the District 3 Trustee of Skokie. So the election is coming up soon. I know there are a lot of different elections going on throughout the state. Tell me what your hope is in this. Besides winning the election, what is your hope what you want to bring to Skokie with your service as a trustee?
I love this question. Well, first of all, I will say that Skokie has recently been divided into 4 new voting districts. And so District 3 is a brand new district. And I happen to be running unopposed. So unless something catastrophic happens, I am the only person running in Skokie who knows that they're going to be serving, which gives me a great opportunity to build bridges and to make sure that we keep the things that are working well in Skokie working and the things that need improving.
Were there any things in particular that you felt the community was really concerned about or crying out saying, man, this really needs attention and no one's really paying, giving it the proper focus that it needs?
Yes. There are pockets of Skokie that are blighted and disinvested and have been that way for decades. And as a 10-year resident, I wasn't seeing any progress on any of these areas. And I couldn't figure out why, because Skokie as a community has resources and community drive, and I couldn't figure out why we would allow areas of our village to fall into such disrepair. And as a concerned citizen, I started to dive into this issue. And one of the things that I worked on was this project called Meetup on Main, which it was and is a completely volunteer, community-led initiative to bring attention to these blighted areas in Skokie and to provide information and a proof of concept that if you do anything in these blighted areas, the community will come out and support it. So we don't have to just invest our money and our time in infrastructure that already works. We can invest our time and resources into places in Skokie that really, really need it. So through Meetup on Main, we worked with business owners, we worked with the residents, we worked with other stakeholders in the area to show the village that we can support things that come into these smaller pockets, and we can bring resources to these smaller pockets in Skokie. Meetup on Main has been a wildly successful community initiative, and it's because of Meetup on Main that the village then took notice of the blight on Main Street. They commissioned a report to reimagine what could happen along the entire Main Street corridor, and also they decided to actually purchase one of the vacant properties along Main Street and create the home of the Fine Arts Commission and the first ever Skokie Winters Farmers Market. So in doing all of this community activism, it became clear to me that there were places where the village just wasn't working, not just for residents, but also for businesses and also for other people wanting to explore Skokie. And so for me, what I'm hoping to do is get to the bottom of why some of these issues exist and tackle those issues. Is this an issue of we need building codes that are consistent and make sense? Do we need more training in our village staff? Do we need more understanding of how resources are allocated? et cetera, things like that. That's a long answer to a short question.
Well, but it's a good answer. A lot of times people will just, I honestly, I kind of get tired of candidates who talk in 10-second sound bites, when there's a lot more in an answer to a question than 10 seconds. You're running as an independent.
And all of these.
Yes, go on.
I'm sorry.
No,
all of these issues relate to each other. So we can talk about small business supports in Skokie, but that also relates to, do we have affordable housing in Skokie? Can people afford to live here? Can people afford to support their schools? Are people having enough transportation options? All of these are comprehensive problems that relate to each other. And I think it's often missed that these problems and issues are interrelated. And then when you touch one, you're really touching the whole system. And we have to be really cognizant of what kind of Skokie we want to build when we're adjusting these systems.
You kind of got me going in this direction here, because I do hear this a lot. And I talk to folks who are running, for city councils, representative, state representative, U.S. reps, and they articulate that very thing. There are things that need to be addressed that don't appear to be getting addressed for whatever reason. If you don't think you have an answer, by all means, don't feel you have to make one up. But why is it that there are sometimes problems that seem so incredibly obvious to folks in the community that our local government doesn't seem to be recognizing it?
Well, I can only speak to what I observe in my direct community. And I would like to say that the one-party system of government in Skokie in many ways has worked for some of our programs. For example, our library is amazing and award-winning. Our park district is incredible and provides all kinds of cool classes and services and facilities for the residents of Skokie. Our school districts are wonderful. My children go to school in Skokie Public Schools, and we have felt tremendously supported. So all of those things are working. Why do some issues not get addressed on a municipal level when it's so obvious to the people? Well, one thing is sometimes it's a lack of political will. Sometimes it's the fact that things move more slowly in government than people maybe are expecting. Sometimes it's a communication issue. Sometimes difficult decisions need to be made, and instead of being transparent and forthright with the community so that there's a track record and a paper trail, it seems expedient to make decisions seemingly in the shadows. And sometimes it's a matter of the people in power just simply not listening to the voices of their constituents. So I think it's a multi-pronged thing, and it's very difficult to assign blame to one area. But if you recognize that government is an entire organism, then it's important to treat the symptoms of dysfunction, but also understand why the system works in the way that it does. And if we need to change the way the system is working, then we should.
You make a reference to Skokie being pretty much one party. Is that why you're running as an independent?
Well, yes and no. One of the things that happened is Skokie pushed through three really important voter reforms, and this is the first election that those voter reforms are being implemented. So one of them was to divide Skokie into 4 voting districts. One of them was to create staggered terms for those who serve, and one of them was to create a system of nonpartisan elections. Previously, it was very difficult for any independent candidate to run in Skokie because of the one-party system. And initially, my understanding of the former Skokie Caucus Party was that it did a lot of good in the beginning, and it was meant to build consensus, and it was meant to be a unifying force. As it functions now, or rather doesn't function because it no longer exists, it has become a system in which certain ideas are pushed through despite opposition. And so that party has become unresponsive to the community and unresponsive to voters. And that is evidenced by a 9% voter turnout rate in the last several municipal elections. I expect this coming municipal election, because we finally have choice, there's more than one person running in every district and for every seat, except for District 3, which I will get to, why that's probably the case. So for the first time in a very long time, Skokie voters actually do have a choice, and candidates have an obligation to talk about where they stand on issues and actually to take a stand on issues. And I think that that's really, really exciting. And I think that moving forward, Skokie has a real opportunity for deep community-focused change and building a community that we can all be proud to live in.
I know you say you're running unopposed right now, but I'm assuming there's still challenges to having this, running in general, especially when you're trying to get your message out. I mean, what kinds of challenges have you been encountering?
Well, I would say that in general, because of my community activism, I'm already very well known in the Skokie community, and particularly in District 3. And so there hasn't been a lot of opposition. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that my track record is controversial in any way. I've been out in the community doing the grunt work. I've been out in the community doing the ideation work. I've been talking with small businesses and solving problems for them that they haven't had resources to solve on their own. I've certainly done a lot of advocacy. And so I think that in District 3, there's not opposition that I can see at this time. That doesn't mean that there won't be, but I haven't encountered a lot of resistance. And like I said, because I'm running unopposed, it gives me a lot of leeway in order to build these bridges, because the transition from a one-party system to this more open and engaged situation means that there are going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some letting go of previous power structures, and there's going to be some really, really huge, big ideas that come out that are going to need a voice that can balance these views and create harmony.
Before we go, do you have any opinions on what's going on a national stage right now?
I certainly do. I am horrified. I'm horrified by the executive branch in general. I'm horrified by the unwillingness to do the hard work of holding Trump accountable. I'm certainly scared for my community. Skokie is a very diverse community, and we have a lot to lose by these draconian executive orders, et cetera. That being said, I intend to protect my community to the best of my ability in the ways that I can moving forward.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. And before we go, how can people support you? Where can they find you? Online, social media?
Oh, sure. So you can go to my website, which is lissalovesskokie.com. So there's lots of S's in there. It's LISSALOVESSKOKIE.com. And also come out on April 1st and vote. Make sure that you're talking to your neighbors. Make sure that you are informed on the local issues, because this is where we can make the biggest impact.
Well, nice. That is great. Thank you, Lissa, for sharing that with us. Best of luck in your new role with the Skokie, with the city of Skokie, and good luck on the election. Take care now, and we've got a break here, and when we come back, we do have one more call to get to. So this is Elliott Serrano on Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez
There's so much that goes on behind closed doors.
on WCPT 820.
You know, there is a lot that goes on behind closed doors, like just now, where I had to ask my producer, wait, is Skokie a village or a city? That's why I was stumbling there with Miss Levy there. Wait a minute, is it the city of Skokie? The village of Skokie? So my apologies, Ms. Levy, if I kind of bumbled our disengagement there. My caffeine hasn't kicked in yet. Also, my call that I had dropped. So if you want to call in, 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, you can call or you can text. And I've been looking through the texts here during the commercial break. And Elliott, here we go. From the 708, Elliott, always great to hear you on Driving It Home. How do you respond to the video with Musk in the Oval Office with his son? Now, I did see that. I saw that whole bit there. Musk got called out on the story about the USAID sending condoms to Hamas or whatever, and then he came out and said, "Oh yeah, there'll be times when I'm mistaken about things." I mean, that was a pretty huge misspeak or mistake. That they were out there blowing up numbers and saying that USAID was spending millions of, if not the tens of millions of dollars on condoms. But videos are circulating about what his son X said to Trump. Not sure if they're true, but little kids do repeat what they hear, especially their parents. Telling Trump he isn't the president? I did not see that. If anyone has a link to that, please send it to me on the text line. I can attest to the reality that children will repeat what their parents said. I used to be a preschool teacher, and oh my goodness, some of the things that these kids would come to school and tell me, the conversations they were having, that they were listening to with mom and dad, and some of the language. Mind you, and I get on this rant all the time. If you are someone who works with kids, or you have kids, you have young children, okay? Talk to them. Talk to your kids. Don't use the baby talk. Don't talk in a condescending tone. Talk in a kind tone. Speak in a soothing tone. But just use regular language. Children, from the time they're born till up until preschool age, they are absorbing so much information. They're like little sponges. And studies have shown that children that are exposed to more and more language during that early developmental time actually will do better in school. So that's one of the things I love. You could always tell the kids whose parents talked to them, who had conversations with them, and these kids would just develop, great mannerisms, and they would speak, and sometimes they didn't always understand. I don't think they knew every word they were using and what they were actually saying, but they were speaking, they were expressing themselves. It makes me wince. Oh, it makes me wince when I hear people yell at little kids. Okay, or I'm talking about the young ones, when they use like angry language, insulting language, when they call their kids stupid or things like that. Really, that can be incredibly harmful. So, not that I would expect anybody who listens to WCPT. I'm expecting you to be much more progressive in your child rearing. But again, it's not great to talk to your kids that way. It does have a detrimental effect to them, especially as far as language development. From the 773, so Elliott, can all the Palestinians stay at Mar-a-Lago and all of Trump's other resorts? This is, of course, in reference to the idea that the nation of Israel is going to give the West Bank to the U.S., and the U.S. is going to develop it into a wonderful, wonderful place. Okay, so this is pretty much what I'm thinking. This is what happened, because Trump, in his last term, he went to Saudi Arabia all the time. I mean, I don't know if you've seen how things look like in Qatar, depends on how you pronounce it. When you go to the United Arab Emirates, when you go to some of those cities where the Saudis have made these incredible constructs in the middle of the desert. They've created like theme parks and, mini rainforests. There's even one, and there's an indoor ski slope that, again, in the middle of the desert, the Saudis have been able to create this sort of thing. And that Trump saw that and goes, oh, well, we could probably do that. Americans can probably do that. No. I'm going to tell you right now, my faith, and get mad at me if you want, my faith in the American system of putting anything together, building anything, whether it's a city, a road, or some such, it has been sorely challenged, not only by how we dropped the ball in the reconstruction of Iraq after, again, the Iraq War, but every time I see videos online of the new Disney parks in Beijing or the Universal Studios parks in Saudi Arabia, my goodness, these parks are incredible. Even the rides are way beyond anything we have here in the United States. There's a Jurassic Park ride in Beijing where the dinosaur actually chases you while you're on a boat. Why don't we have that here? Why is it that when we refurbish the Jurassic Park ride down in Florida, all they did was add a couple dinosaurs and that was it? It was kind of lame, if you ask me. So the fact that Trump has this idea that, we're going to make it a paradise, especially when you're going to be surrounded by a lot of neighbors that are not going to be happy that American troops are there. Oh, yes. Did I say American troops? Trump is trying to say that there will be no troops needed to do this, to pull this off. I don't think so. I really don't think so. If anything, this will call for the occupation of Gaza by United States troops, which makes me think about two things so far that Trump has done in this administration that, it's actually lifted from that show, The West Wing. Now, I don't know if for those of you, when I've been on this show before, I talk about The West Wing all the time. I'm a total West Wing nerd. For those who are not familiar, in the late 90s, early 2000s, a show called The West Wing was created, starred Rob Lowe, Martin Sheen, Bradley Whitford, Allison Janney, and Richard Schiff, and a number of other very talented actors. It was created by Aaron Sorkin after he had already written the screenplay to a movie called The American President. And in The West Wing, Aaron Sorkin explored the idealism of working in government, the idealism that, and showing that government wasn't something that you had to question all the time. It wasn't something that you had to feel like, they're trying to get over on me. No, that the people who were working in government wanted to do good and help the nation. Well, what were two things that were proposed on the West Wing? One, yes, U.S. troops in Gaza. There was a story arc where, in pursuit of a two-state solution, President Bartlett agreed to put 20,000 U.S. troops as peacekeepers in Gaza to maintain the two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. And if you go back, you can watch it on HBO Max now. If you go back and watch that particular story arc, that's in the middle of, I think, between season 5 and 6. You can see that whole story arc, last few episodes there. You can see how very complicated just putting that sort of agreement together was. So that was the first thing that I'm thinking. Maybe someone on Trump's staff saw that and they said, hey, we can do that. And then Trump said, well, yeah, we'll just make it a resort. He trumped it. And then the other thing, and I want to hear everyone's feedback on this. Yes, Sam Seaborn pitched getting rid of the penny. Yes. The penny, the one little copper piece, the only, which on the show, and when Trump proposed it, I wasn't angry about it. I was like, I kind of agree. That little piece of copper, or it's not really copper, it's bronze and some other things, and zinc, I believe. it costs more to produce it than what it's worth. So Sam Seaborn was saying, hey, we probably should forget the penny. We should get rid of the penny. And there was an episode exploring why that would be a problem. And then, but then Trump didn't really care and just said, hey, we're getting rid of the penny altogether, just bypassing Congress and all these other issues. Oh, yeah, and they did deal with the assassination of a foreign head of state on the West Wing, but they took more than 3-4 episodes to resolve that, whereas Trump did it in one afternoon when he assassinated, one of the Iranian scientists that was on their nuclear program. But that's an episode for another day. All right, folks, when we come back, Patty might be here. Maybe she won't. We'll see. See you right after the break.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
I'm back. Hi, everybody. Well, the folks listening on KTNF AM 950, they're like, well, this is just the beginning of the show. What are you back from? Hi, everybody in Minneapolis, St. Paul, listening on KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. We are broadcasting here out of WCPT 820 in Chicago, Heartland Signal. And for those of you listening on your radios and it gets a little fuzzy and you can't hear us as well, you should download the TuneIn app or tell your smart device, hey, you play WCPT 820. And all of our shows, by the way, are podcasts wherever you listen to your podcasts, on Amazon, on TuneIn, on Spotify, all those places. And joining me in studio is guest host for the last hour is Elliott Serrano, our Chief Geek Officer, King of Geek Chicago. Hi, Elliott.
Hello, Minnesota.
Hello, Minnesota. Yeah, Elliott was sitting in for me. Thank you.
It was fun. No, it was the first hour. It was interesting because I know whenever I'm here, the text line is always going.
Uh-huh.
Today it's been the reverse. People have been calling.
Oh, I know. People have been calling a lot lately.
Yeah.
They need us. We need each other.
Yeah, they're venting about a lot of things right now, which I don't blame them. And I will say, too, this has been kind of a week for me because, first, I've told myself I got to stop doom scrolling.
Oh, God, yes. Don't you?
I found myself at one point just lying in bed. Okay, this is what I do when I wake up in the morning. Not that people really need to hear all this, but hey, we're here. You folks, bear with us for a moment. This is Patty and I getting caught up, all right, with each other. This is what we kind of do when we first run into each other. So what I've been doing lately is I wake up in the morning, I have my phone, check my emails, and I have these different puzzles that are on LinkedIn.
Ooh.
If you have a LinkedIn profile, there are different puzzles. There's one called Queens. There's one called Tango. Was it Tango? Okay, but there are different puzzles. Some test your pinpoints and some test your vocabulary. Some test your spatial awareness, things like, Sudoku type puzzles and so on. So I use that to kind of get my brain going in the morning. So I'll still be lying in bed with the dog and she's snoring still. I get the puzzles, get my brain going, because that's another thing too. You remember Joey, our friend who was the trainer who does like the Today Show all the time?
Joey Thurman.
Joey Thurman. You can follow him on TikTok, by the way. Incredibly attractive man in incredible shape and all that. But anyway, so Joey Thurman said that you really need to hold off on having caffeine in the morning. So if you have it in the morning, that's fine, but you got to get your brain going first before you have that first cup of caffeine. Otherwise, you get too dependent on it to really get the juices flowing, so to speak. So I said, okay, I can do that. So those puzzles are what get me going in the morning, because I know I'm really groggy at first, but then when I really have to think and focus on these things, that gets me. Then, after I've completed my puzzles, that's when I need to tell myself to get out of bed. Because if I don't, then what do? You start checking your Facebook feed, you start checking your threads, your Blue Sky, and then inevitably you find yourself doom scrolling. And the last thing you want to do that early in the morning during this time of year, being how things are, is start your day with doom scrolling.
That's fair.
So I've been trying to avoid that. And I said, nope, stop doom scrolling. I did my puzzles. I put the phone down. I get up, let the dog out, make myself a cup of coffee, have some breakfast, walk the dog, get my day set in front of me, and then head on out. And so I guess the point behind that whole thing is I want to tell folks, give yourself a break. Yeah. Stay off of social media for the most part, because if there's anything I've learned now, and we should all know that social media, unless you're talking to friends, social media tends to drive your mood down because it wants to engage your rage.
Yes.
And now we know Google lies.
Oh my God, does Google lie?
We know Google lies.
So much with the lying.
I was like, when I saw that's what happened to me yesterday. When I saw that the Google platform had changed the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, I was like, that's it. It's the most obvious thing now that Google lies to you. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't think it before.
Oh God, yeah.
We definitely know it now. And I've known that Google lies for a while. I mean, I know for the most part that when I Google myself, if I ask Google to give me if I asked the Google Gemini to write a profile about me, because trust me, if you Google me, I have a ton of search results out there. Google Gemini will write a profile of me that is at best 50% accurate. At best.
I've never done the Gemini on the Patti Vasquez.
Yeah, just Google yourself. You'll see. Yeah. But you're going to be like, oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. It makes me look good. Mm-hmm. But then ChatGPT will do the same thing. You enter my name into ChatGPT. It will it will tell you things just like, hey, I wish I had done that. I never did that. There was one point when it said I worked for ESPN.
Ooh.
I never worked for...
You should be working for ESPN.
It would be fun, but I've never worked for ESPN. I've never worked for the Disney Corporation.
Have you ever been a guest on like one of the station's own?
I have been guests.
See, that's why.
But that's the thing. But it said that I worked for those companies. I never did.
I've had guests who have listed my former radio employer as a place that they worked because they were guests, which is interesting to me. Technically, you were a regular. You weren't paid by the station, but you were. No, okay.
No, but I do. I would call myself a content contributor for WGN.
That sounds right.
And mind you, and technically, I was an employee of the Tribune Company.
Correct.
And and WGN was.
All that's correct.
Part of the Tribune, yeah,
1,000%.
So I mean, so I could say, well, I wouldn't say I was an employee of WGN. I was an employee of the Tribune Company, which was, the WGN was an arm of it. Right. So I can say that I've worked for the Tribune.
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I definitely think that's fair.
And that for folks, I mean, again, I do when I don't always repeat my bona fides. I don't always say. I don't repeat them all the time because a lot of times people go, "What? Who is this guy? Why is he on there? Why is he talking about these things? I never heard of him before." Which I feel
like you're imagining those people.
Yeah. Well, no, because this is a funny thing too. Because there was a time when I could say, "Hey, look up all my stuff on the Tribune website. Look up all my articles and all the stuff I've written." Ever since the Tribune was bought by the hedge fund, the guys who trunked it, as we called it, like 90% of the content that I produced for the Trib disappeared. Do I have it myself? Yes, I do. It's all away in files, but it's nothing online. And I've been meaning to actually put together a little online portfolio of all the work I've done for the Trib and other publications.
You should get some of the audio, because right now, not for nothing, but everything we ever did there is still online.
Yes. Yes, those shows are still on there. I've seen those.
I don't know if I should say it out loud.
No, I say find it, but you'll find it. I was listening to them. I was like, I did a bit where I go, wait a minute, are those shows still there? Yeah, they are. All the podcasts, all those different episodes that I was on with you.
2015, Elliott Serrano discusses the recent plane crash involving Harrison Ford.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yeah, and then I think there are a couple of Freak Out Fridays that were on there too.
A couple of pretty early wake up calls, but you were not there.
I wasn't
for the infamous one.
I was for some.
Yes,
I was not there for the one that would change the course of everything.
Yes,
although there are days I go, I wish I were there.
Would you stop me? But it wasn't me. I mean, it was.
No, I would have said something.
Well, Esmeralda was also considered to be the adult in the room.
I know. I take it I mean, this is like, I do have this. I'm like Peter Parker, who will blame himself for the death of his Uncle Ben because he didn't stop the burglar, that ultimately. I'm like Peter Parker. I could have been in studio that night, but I wasn't. I'm trying to remember why. I know it wasn't that I didn't want to be there. I just couldn't be there.
It was a late night show.
It was a late night. 11
p.m. to 2 a.m. The fact that you showed up as often as you did, I'm very grateful for.
But there was something that was going on that was keeping me from being there. And then, of course, I heard after the fact about everything that went on. And although I do more than anyone. I mean, I love him, but I blame Dan Katowski.
He was
ecstatic.
It's a long story, but he was just like, make the call. I feel like I'm flying towards the sun. I feel free.
Yeah, he feels free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the pilot of the plane.
Oh boy. Yeah. But again, I didn't put the outgoing call in. At any rate, and I was told I wasn't that person's boss. So anyway, I was repeatedly by everybody.
Yeah,
by the
all
way,
inside baseball folks.
Yes.
So sorry.
By the way, a listener from the 773 says, Patty and Elliott, I can also get this station and many others on radio.net. My tuners, Radios Canada, Radio Garden, FM radio, etc. So.
Yes. If you have an Alexa, you can just tell it that too. I have a Alexa and Google. What do they call Dot? The smart speakers. Just tell your smart speakers, for the most part, play this. But this is
WCPT. Play WCPT 820.
The 820, exactly. Or yes, you have to make sure you have to enunciate because my Alexa acts like a teenager that can't hear me when I talk to it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand you.
Yeah, or it plays something completely different that I didn't want.
Yeah.
So,
I know what we should be playing. We should be running to our ads so we can come back and talk to Ellie Krug, who is the host of KTNF's The Illegal Trans Woman, coming up right now. But we have a monthly phone call with Ellie, and Elliott Serrano joined Ellie and Elliott joining me as we return to Driving It Home on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. More in a moment. And then we got to talk about my day.
I want to hear about this.
More in a moment.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home. Joining me in studio is our guest co-host, Elliott Serrano, the Chief Geek Officer of the Patti Vasquez Show, as well as the King of Geeks Chicago. Follow him on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. And I'm so thrilled to introduce him and those of you who didn't hear our conversation last month with Ellie Krug. Ellie joins us right now. Ellie is the host of The Illegal Trans Woman, and I guess we have a couple, 2-3 things to talk about. Ellie, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Patty, and nice to meet you, Elliott.
Likewise. I have to say, knowing that I'd be getting to speak to you, I did a little research, looked at your Facebook page and all the things that you're doing, and can I give you your flowers, as they say? Incredible what you're doing now, inspirational, standing up and making sure that you're a voice for the trans community. Bravo, really, bravo.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, we're a small community. There are probably less than 5 million Americans who are transgender, and we are under attack. And it is a relentless attack. I mean, what are we? Barely 3 weeks in since he took the oath, whatever value that is, okay? And in that time, he's issued at least 5 executive orders targeting the transgender community. His EEOC has gone further to target the transgender community as well by declaring that it plans to prohibit private businesses from allowing transgender folks to use private facilities like restrooms and locker rooms according to their gender identity. He's gone after trans kids. He's gone after our service members. Can you believe that? That he will drum out somewhere between 10 and 15,000 service members simply because they're transgender. It is a relentless psychological attack on a very small group of people. What does that remind you of? What time in history?
Let me think. I don't have to think that hard. Yeah. I think that we're seeing the rise of the authoritarianism. You know, it was interesting. I don't know how you spent Inauguration Day, but I chose to set my own pace for what I feel we're going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I know that you've already committed because of who you are and what you want to make sure people know about and to protect others. I was actually in New Orleans. I went to New Orleans the day of the inauguration, and I was in the World War II Museum, and it was the road to Berlin. And so I was standing there in a room with pictures of Adolf Hitler and Mussolini when I got the ding on my phone that Elon Musk had just given the Nazi salute. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was just like, this is happening. And so, you know, and the thing is for a lot of us, this has been happening to the trans community for a long time. I mean, I've never seen any sort of conversation about people's own dignity and just the right to exist come under such assault as I have in the last 10 years to the trans community. So you have lived this for a long time. What do you want people to know about what this time and moment feels in contrast to what you've experienced over the last decade or more, your whole life?
Well, this moment is far, far worse. You know, I happened to be the first lawyer in Iowa to ever transition genders, and I did it in 2009 when transgender people weren't very visible. And what, you know, and at that time, I mean, it was like, you know, this is different, but we're going to accept you. The problem is as more transgender people have come out, because do you remember the gay and the lesbian movement, you know, where more gay people started coming out, you know, because people saw that people were brave, and then they decided they could be brave and come out of the closet. It's the same phenomenon with transgender people. The problem is that when somebody comes out as trans, you know, you've got to get used to a whole different gig. I mean, you've got to get used to somebody's new name, their new appearance, their new pronouns. And for many people, they think it's a choice. So here's the thing that I want your audience to understand. Everything tied into what Trump and his acolytes are doing is premised on the idea that being transgender is just a choice. You don't have to be that way. If you only got the right counseling or the right therapist or the right religion or the right, you know, whatever, we could break this. That's why they're going after the kids, because they think that if they can keep the kids from transitioning genders, okay, that it'll go away. And they do not understand that we are wired the way that we are. Just like, you know, Patty, I don't know if we talked last time about left-handed people. You know, left-handed people get wired a certain way.
Yes.
They didn't ask to be wired that way, okay? And, you know, it's just everybody is wired differently in their heads. They are. And trans people happen to be wired the way they are. But Trump and his cronies, they don't understand that. Of course, they don't care about that, but they want to use us as the reason for all bad things happening in America culturally right now.
I have to say, as someone, you know, I'm cisgender. I mean, what was the term? Cisgender. I'm a straight male. Okay, and I cannot imagine the emotional and mental toll it takes on someone who, you know, when you're going through this sort of thing, it's enough that you have the societal issues, you know, just people in general having a hard time accepting that. I mean, yes, you will have family members and friends who are cool with it. They're great. Then you have others who just don't get it. And then you have folks who push back. But then to have your actual government now telling you that you're invalid, that the life you want to live is, you know, essentially illegal and wrong. You know, I cannot imagine the toll that can take on someone.
Elliott, the government on January 20th went from my protector to my oppressor. Some would even say my persecutor.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I want to make clear, all right? You're talking to someone who lives in Minnesota. You know, I am 68 years old. I have a lot of privilege and a lot of rights here in Minnesota. What I'm, you know, and so, of course, psychologically it bothers me, but I am more worried about the transgender girl in Birmingham, Alabama, or Little Rock, Arkansas, or the transgender boy stuck, you know, in God knows where, Texas. And they have no rights. They have nobody. They don't even have a system set up to protect them in any way. those are the. I mean, they don't have the resistance, they don't have the grit, and when you don't have hope, there's not much left for you, and we're going to be losing a lot of transgender youth and adults. Are you aware that we lost a transgender service member, a VA person treated at the VA who committed suicide at the Syracuse VA facility, hanging in a transgender flag?
Oh, I did not know that. And that's the kind of story.
That happened 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and those are the kinds of stories. Especially if this administration and the news outlets want to bend the knee, they're not going to report the tragedies. Just like they eliminated the maternal mortality boards in states because they don't want people to know that women are dying because they don't have access to care. And this goes to the idea that people say, well, they're just they want to say it's a mental health, which is so strange to me when they say they're mentally ill. Okay, if that's really what you believe, then why still be cruel and persecute them? If that were the case, which it's not. Right. If it were a choice, why be cruel and want to take someone's rights away and, as you said, persecute somebody? All of that. Where is the kindness? Where is this Christian nationalism? Where's the Christianity part of this? Nowhere.
Oh, it's no. Well, I mean, but they need to have a target, and we've become it's just so outrageous and frustrating. So your listeners, what they can do is remember it's not a choice. And what they can also do is if they want to write checks, be writing checks to the ACLU, to Lambda Legal, to organizations that are on the front lines, that are fighting for transgender rights. I mean, there are multiple lawsuits challenging the executive orders that are going on right now. We've got students stepping up in a couple of states to sue over the bans on their ability to get gender-affirming care, play, and sports. I mean, people are being brave, but we are such a small group. We need so many allies to be there for us.
What are some good resources that you would ask folks that want to be allies? What are good resources that you would refer folks to educate themselves? Because, you're going to have folks who are going to push this whole ideology. Well, there are only two genders and this is what you're born and blah, 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 blah. But we all know that is not the case. Science already shown that gender, sexuality, all those things are way more fluid than we want to believe.
Oh, all over the place. I mean, certainly the Human Rights Campaign has things on its website about what it means to be transgender and how to come out as a transgender person. There's a fantastic blogger by the name of Erin Reed. She has a blog called Erin in the Morning, where everything related to what's happening legally with trans people across America, she's up to date. She's an award-winning trans journalist, and I highly recommend people go to her. But you can also go to your local PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbian and Gays chapter, and if you can write a check to them, but you can also reach out to them and ask, what can we do? Because many of those chapters have primarily parents and family members of trans people, okay, and they're trying to be supportive to the trans community and to their loved ones.
And I would encourage folks to listen to Ellie Krug's show. Tell folks when they can catch out your show and learn more and stay educated, informed, and engaged.
So the illegal trans woman is my attempt to fight back against the Trump administration. The show airs on AM 950 in the Twin Cities, KTNF, airs on Saturdays live at 4 o'clock, and then goes into podcast. Podcasts can be found wherever anyone finds their podcasts. I also have a website at elliekrug.com, ELLIEKRUG.com. If you go there, you can sign up for a newsletter that goes out to 9,500 people a month. Plus, Patty, since I talked to you last time, I've started a Substack blog titled Being Ellen, and I would love to have more followers on the Substack because I'm fighting back again with the Substack and my radio show and pushing back. My community needs to have vocal advocates. I'm trying to be one of those people, but you can't do that if you're in if you're in the basement in the dark.
I agree, and we love you. We love the work that you're doing.
Oh.
I think that it's incredible that you're sharing your story. I mean, anybody's story is hard to share, but right now, as you mentioned, the most persecuted group in the United States for what God knows what, the hatred is palpable. So again, as Ellie mentioned, support the ACLU, PFLAG, and listen to the show so that you can find out why they are taking on this challenge. Go to the Substack, be a paid subscriber to make sure that Ellie's like, are people listening? Are people reading? Yes, they are. And here's the thing, Ellie, you know this. If people don't respond, it takes a while. So please, you and you and I both need to pace ourselves when it comes to the backlash. You more than me. I have the privilege of being an ally, and it's my honor. And I just want to keep being here for you every month and in any way we can.
Patty, I'm just so grateful that you believe in me and in my work. And Elliott, it's so great to meet you. I just want to close on this. I am not afraid. I am angry. Okay? And I will resist this regime.
Yes.
To my last breath.
I don't know about you, but I don't know if you like Marvel or The Incredible Hulk. You want to know my secret?
You're always angry.
I'm always angry. Thank you, Ellie. Great to talk to you. We'll talk to you next month, my friend.
Okay. Thank you both. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation again. That's on AM 950. You can go to am950radio.com, look for Ellie Krug's show, and you'll get to see some of the past shows and then follow them on Substack as well. More after this with Elliott Serrano, my guest co-host. I've got some fun stories to talk about, and I have a West Wing question for Elliott.
Ooh.
I know. I think you can help us all with this.
Yeah.
It has to do with news earlier in the week regarding the decision that was made. It has to do with Illinois, kind of. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Strong Chicago continues way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I am your host, Patti Vasquez, joined in the studio with guest co-host and fill-in host, Elliott Serrano, the Chief Geek Officer of the Patti Vasquez Show, as well as the King of Geeks Chicago. Hey, Elliott.
Hey.
Hi. I thank you for filling in for me for the first hour.
No, that was fun. It was fun. It was, again, when I got here, I was already dealing with the nervous energy that you get after driving on the expressway. And
in the snow.
Well, it wasn't even that bad.
Right.
But there are people who, regardless of conditions, they're going to drive like it's sunny and dry. And like I saw one dude, their SUV got turned sideways, backwards on the expressway, and people were still passing me. I said, no, I turned into a little old man. I'm like middle to the right lane. I'm just keeping the speed limit here. Or I'm not even driving so fast for conditions. But yeah, so if you listen to the first hour, it took me a little while to work that nervous energy off.
You sounded great. I was listening.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I was off shooting a episode of Chicago PD. I'm honored to have been cast as just a witness to a crime or somebody who the police are questioning. Yes.
So wait. So did they ever name your character?
No,
you were just a person.
I'm neighbor one.
Okay, neighbor one. So it is possible in my head canon.
Yes.
At some point later on, they might say that was Nurse Patty.
Yes, they could.
From your guests on Chicago Chicago Med.
Same energy.
Yeah.
Same energy.
So
she got no time for this. Look, she got no time.
You had to get to the hospital.
I'm saying that's how I look at that. Well, so we're in the van. LaRoyce Hawkins is the police officer that I don't know if I'm. Well, at any rate, I got a chance to work with him, and so we're in the van rehearsing the lines because it was snowing, so they didn't want to block it. First, they wanted to make sure we had our lines, and then we would block it walking and talking, which was what the director said. We're going to do this walking, and LaRoyce said, I don't know if she can do that. I've been talking to her for 5 minutes. I don't think she's got it in her. And he goes, what? He goes, I don't think she can walk and talk. He was kidding.
I was just saying, he was poking you.
He was poking me. I could do it. In my head, I go left, right, left, right. So what I have to tell you is the director of the episode is none other than Paul McCrane, who played the surgeon on ER, who not once, but twice
was hit by a helicopter.
So, oh my God, it was the coolest thing, you guys. So I'm standing next to LaRoyce off by the curb, right? And I'm looking at him and I just turned. Now, mind you forget that we're older, right? You forget, like Gen X, it's a significant difference between millennials and Gen Z and our lived experiences of watching TV and especially that show, right?
Yeah,
so
and we get people confuse us for boomers all the time.
I know, that's true.
No, I'm Gen X. I'm not a boomer.
So I turned to LaRoyce and I go, I can't look at him without thinking of him being getting hit by a helicopter. And he goes, what? And I said,
was it Dr. Romano? I think
it is Robert Romano.
Yeah.
And I turned to him and I go. Well, first it took his hand, and then it came back for his soul.
It came back first. Yeah,
right?
It came back. It was like the shark in Jaws coming after Roy Scheider. Yeah.
Because, so we're standing there, right? So now we're blocking, and we come back, and LaRoyce Hawkins pulls out his phone and looks up, Paul McCrane and helicopter, and starts watching it, and he's like, and so I can hear it in the background, like he's watching the hand, and he had no idea. So we get back in the van with other of the cast members, and he starts playing it for them, because none of them had any idea about his role on ER.
Wow.
And like one of the actors goes, who did he piss off? Like the writers or the audience, right? It was amazing. It was one of my favorite moments because they're like passing their phone around like, no, look at this, look at him.
It's funny too because Dr. Romano is known for being a real jerk in the beginning.
He was such a jerk on the show.
But then there was a point where they started to humanize him and make him...
Well, because he came back with a prosthetic arm.
Yeah, because he could no longer... He was like a brilliant surgeon, so he's like, now he can't do that anymore. And they made him... Yeah, they tried to make him more sympathetic or not as much of a jerk. And then, I remember seeing the teaser for it. Uh-huh. And I go... Are you serious?
Yeah, because he looks up and
it's a second helicopter,
and he says something. He's like, "You got to be kidding me!" Kind of. I don't know what he says. I will tell you, this man is so nice.
I'm sure
he is. He was so. I mean, this guy's been in the business for 40 years now, 30 years, whatever it is. I don't know if before ER but it was 30 years. I started doing stand-up comedy about when ER premiered. So I was watching that. I watched that. I was Friends, then ER, whatever that Seinfeld, that whole night.
Yeah.
Right? And
that was the night. That was the blockbuster night that NBC owned.
Yes,
on Thursday nights.
Seriously, he is so charismatic, and like he gave me a different read on a line. He goes, "I just want to do this." He goes, "Okay, great." And I mean, I've worked on a lot. I mean, and believe me, I want to say this about the cast crew of all the Chicago One shows: Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, Chicago PD. They are extraordinary, from hair and makeup to sound. The entire crew, the drivers are amazing. Everyone is amazing. Let me see what Steve is in. Someone's in a helicopter. Is that what this says? Hey, Steve. Hello, Steve.
No, not in a helicopter.
You want to talk about you want to call about the ER helicopter? Yes. So Paul McCrane. I got to work
about the director.
Yes.
And you may have mentioned this while I was ringing in. I hope you didn't. But did you know that he is also one of the stars of the movie Fame?
Oh, that's right. He was in the movie Fame. Yes.
Yeah, he was in like a couple of months into ER before all of us went, my God, picture him with a big orange afro. Yes, that's the kid from Fame.
See? Oh, my God, that's right.
Yeah, which is so funny because his character in Fame is this like sweet, nevishy, kind of, you feel so bad for him. And then he bursts out on ER. He's just this jerk. And you're
Yes.
like, oh my God, that's acting. That's acting.
And he is an actor's director. He was so generous and we're in snow, we're cold, right? And and he actually did a retake of just my one line because my hair was in my face.
Oh,
yeah. He goes, go back, Patty. I can't see your face. He goes, your hair looks beautiful. I just can't see your face. And gave me, and it was the best experience. Aside from the fact that they had me in pink Uggs, which I swear to God, Nurse Patty would never wear, and they're not waterproof. So like my feet, they gave me long johns, and they have a warming jacket over your wardrobe, and so like a Canada Goose, like really heavy layered, heavy duty, and then they had 2 layers of socks, but the socks my feet were so wet, but then at one point, so we crossed the street while I'm talking to the police officer, and we're out of the shot, but it's all puddles, and I was trying to get over the puddles, but then it was like a mound of snow, and so finally I came over like, hey, do us a favor, could you please be careful? You've almost fallen every single time you cross the street. I'm like, you have no idea. I almost fell out of the van. I almost fell out of I had a trailer. You guys had a trailer. That was cool. Oh. I always get a trailer. I mean, anyone who has a line gets a trailer.
That's nice.
Cool. Yes. So yes, thank you for reminding me that Paul McCrane was also in Fame.
So they didn't give you bread bags to put in your booth?
I was thinking. I was like, where's Wholesome?
Wow.
Where's Wonder Bread?
Send me back.
Where's Pepperidge Farm when you need
Send
them?
me back. Wow.
I was thinking I was just like, I need plastic bags in these things. I was in my trailer after we were done. I took I had no socks to come home in. I was like, I was trying to dry them off. That's why, Elliot, I would have been here earlier if my socks had been slightly drier.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was like, I can't.
Steve sent me back though.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And thank you. I bet you that cast. I wish I could have also mentioned Fame, but here's the thing: they would be too young to even know what Fame was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although to see him with as you said, the orange curly hair, the red hair, the red fro, I think would be very funny to them too. So my friends from Chicago PD, Lorice, if you're listening, check out Fame as well. Yeah, it was so much fun to watch these kids because essentially they're all 20, 30-year-old kids. I mean, in my 50s, I think I get to call them kids. They were just so delighted over seeing their director get absolutely annihilated by have his hand cut off.
Helicopter.
Yeah, and they kept watching it like over and over again because he's a regular director on the show.
That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's and there's like interviews of Paul McCrane about how much this helicopter was coming for him. Yeah, too funny. Thank you for that, Steve. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Now I have to tee up the. Now we can get back a little bit to national topics because I have a question for you when we come back about a decision made earlier this week that I believe was covered in an episode of West Wing. And Elliott, as our chief geek officer, is also an aficionado of all things West Wing as well.
I've watched the entire season at least 5 times.
Oh my! Do you fall asleep to it?
No, I actually when I start watching it,
you're in.
I'm in, and I start memorizing dialogue and stuff like that.
Oh wow!
Because it is my dream one day to do a walk and talk.
Oh my God! Today was my first walk and talk.
Yeah, because that's all they did on the West Wing was walk and talk.
And the reaction to the reactions were, I don't know if you can do that, and 2, please don't fall. And the whole time I'm like, left, right, please don't fall, left, right, left. I screwed up. Oh, I did screw up a line once. And you're supposed to just keep going, but and Leroyce took it over for me. That's on me that we had to stop the shot. So I know it was really sweet.
Nice,
super sweet cast and crew. Thank you everybody with Chicago PD. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation with Elliott Serrano. Our phone lines are open 773-763-9278. That's the number to call and join our conversation. And we love hearing from you.
And send a text too.
Yeah, send a text. Elliott, it is our fate to be ignored, the ignored generation. It's been that way since we were alone with the silence, World War II, and boomers.
That's Gen X. We were the latchkey kids.
We're fine. We're totally fine.
No, don't mess around with Gen X though.
We don't really care that much.
When millennials come for us, you don't want to do that.
Don't poke us. We watched Dr. Romano get killed by a helicopter.
Listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
I want to make sure we extend our gratefulness, our gratitude for our friends from Source Solar, new sponsors of the Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez show here on WCPT 820. You can go to source.solar for more information. Reach out to find out whether or not you're a good fit for having solar on your house, on your roof. Do you want solar on your roof, Elliott?
If someone would comp it for me, I'd do it for sure. There are people in my neighborhood who are getting solar panels on their roofs. I've seen them getting installed. I know some guy was going through the neighborhood, doing the bit, hey, you can get solar, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's doing right now a whole lot of good.
Yeah, right. That's what we're talking about now. So you can plan and make your appointments. So go to source.solar, your source for solar.
Because come summer, that's when you get those savings. And that's when you need it.
They will get busy. Am I misremembering this? On an episode of West Wing, it is explained why we continue to mint pennies.
Yes.
Yay!
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is.
And what was the explanation as to why we continue? I thought it had to do with the state of Illinois and our toll booths.
It did.
Okay.
Yes. It had to do with a couple of things.
Okay.
One, because I've talked about this before. As you said, yes, Trump, I swear somebody on his staff watches episodes of The West Wing and goes, hey, we should try doing this. Then people will like us if they do this because everyone loves The West Wing. And then Trump figures out a way to make it like a bad idea. Although I don't disagree with him on this one, oddly enough. So there's an episode, I don't remember the exact episode. It was one of the subplots where Rob Lowe, in one of his Sam Seaborn character, who is in the beginning he's just a speechwriter, but he wants to get involved more and more on policy. And as the seasons progress, Rob Lowe will take on more of a policy advisory role. And in the beginning, it's him talking to Bradley Whitford's character, Josh Lyman, about different things. And he goes, well, you know what we should do? I'm going to make a suggestion to the president that we get rid of the penny. And Josh Lyman goes, why? He goes, well, it costs us more to make pennies than to actually have the penny. And did you know that there are people who will actually mail their pennies back to the U.S. Mint saying that they don't want them, like they want to get rid of them, and that people have requested that we discontinue the penny. This is all stuff that Sam Seaborn has said on The West Wing. This is, of course, with dialogue written by Aaron Sorkin, who is one of our most aspirational writers.
Right.
And, as I've talked several times on this show, The West Wing, I love the show because it talks about government being for people and helping people and trying to make the United States of America better for everyone. I'm not going to say great because America's never been great. We have to make America better.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So after he gives that whole explanation, Josh Lyman, Bradley Whitford, comes back and goes, well, you can't. He goes, why not? And he goes, well, who's on the penny? And Rob Lowe goes, Lincoln. He goes, and where is Lincoln from? And that's when the light comes on. He goes, Illinois.
And at the time, the speaker, I guess, is from Illinois.
He's probably from Illinois. And the toll booths, this was before the iPass and all that. This is before when you had to throw change into a basket on the toll booth. And this was when that episode of The West Wing came out. The toll booths in Illinois were the only ones in the country that still took pennies.
Gotcha.
Because, again, had Abraham Lincoln on them.
Do they still take pennies?
You don't use change at all. If you go through a toll booth and you don't have money, you just have the thing takes.
There's no more baskets at all?
No, they're gone.
I didn't even know that.
Even if you don't have an iPass, it gives you you'll see the little bit where you can go online to pay your toll online.
I did because I've had a transponder for so long.
Oh, those transponders don't work anymore. You have to get the new one. It's like a little sticker that you put on your window.
Is that why I'm getting? I thought those texts were a scam. I should probably look into that.
No, those are real. That's real. Yeah.
Oh boy. I will say. So you do support getting rid of the penny?
Yeah, because again, it's like, there's on the one hand, there's the practical part that it does cost more to make them than it is to use them. Add to that, there's so many out in circulation that people are like, I don't want these anymore. They're sending them back. I'm like, have you ever gone down the street and gone, oh, there's a penny on the ground. I'm going to pick it up. Have you ever done that?
I pick it up. I always pick it up.
It's
Good luck, man. Especially if it's face up.
A nickel, yes. A dime, yes. A quarter, definitely. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Matt's here, and he wants to chime in.
I need to correct you.
Are you going to tell me that I'm wrong?
Yes.
There's still baskets.
Wait, am I wrong? Am I wrong about the West Wing or wrong about the penny?
Or transponders.
Or transponders.
About the transponders.
Okay, go on.
The transponders do still work.
Phew.
So
if you have the transponder, it will work until the end of its life. They will contact you when it's time to replace it. If you want the sticker, you can get it now.
Okay.
But you do not need to get the sticker yet.
So the state of Illinois, or that person, lied to me and said I had to change over.
Yes.
All right, then there we go.
It was a scam. See, I told you it was a scam.
Well, don't get me wrong. The transponder itself, I mean, I had like 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I will say, thank you for bringing that up, because if you have a transponder and you can't keep using it, hold on to that baby, because transferring your balance from that transponder to a sticker is such a headache.
Not only that, the transponder, you can move between multiple vehicles.
Yeah, that you can't do them with a sticker, but that's what they wanted. That's why they came up with the sticker, so that people wouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah,
okay, so
here's my...
you can have multiple license plates on your transponder.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But you can register them.
Correct.
And if you didn't have it in your car, but you do own one, and you go through and you get dinged, you can say, I have one, it's paid for,
Correct.
and they would remove the ticket from you.
Well, you got to call them and do that whole thing.
Yeah, do the whole thing.
Okay, can I tell you something? I'm actually relieved I was wrong about that and not about the West Wing. Because that's where, if you had told me I was wrong about the West Wing, I'd be like, oh, come on.
You were spot on. I actually had the script up here with it. In 1982, they changed the composition to 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. Anyway, I had the whole script in front of me. You were right about everything.
There we go.
However, how much what do you think we're going to rely on more now that we're not going to have pennies? We have to mint more nickels, right?
Yeah, but here's the other thing.
You're going to have less nickels because less people are spending change.
Exactly.
Because they round down or up.
It's all debit.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it costs to make a nickel, by the way?
6 cents.
14 cents.
14 cents. Okay, can I tell you something? This was the turning point. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. The moment the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts figured out how to make the little QR code so you could Zelle them money for the cookies. It's like, I don't have to have cash on me anymore. Yeah. I don't have to have cash. I don't have to have change.
Game changer.
That's it.
Yeah, I had to write a check a few months ago, and it was like, I haven't written a check in months.
Yeah.
I don't have checks.
I was going to say, who takes a check anymore?
Yeah. So someone needed a check because it was the first time, so they needed a canceled check. And it was like, I don't know.
This is my idea. I talked about this before. Anyone who does advocacy for the homeless, is that we need to come up with a system where we provide them with a little sign that has a QR code on it. So if they're out there wanting, like if they need some money, like you want to give them money for food or whatever, because who carries the cash with them anymore?
In New Orleans, the buskers have QR codes. They have Venmo and Zelle. They have a little sign so you can tip them through Venmo and Zelle, which I loved.
See, there we go. So do that for the homeless. So that way you can give them a little money and they have their own give them a debit card that they can use it to spend on food or whatever. And someone just texted in.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you, Matt. It always makes me nervous when Matt comes in and sits down.
What's wrong?
He's like, what did I get wrong? We haven't made a new penny since April 2022. That's from the 847.
Or 23. I think they corrected that.
Or 23, yeah.
Elliott, where can folks find you as we come into the roundup?
I am on all the socials at Elliott Serrano, 2 L's, 2 T's, and 2 R's. On TikTok at Elliott Serrano Jr. And and again, Google makes me look good, but half that stuff that they say I've done, I actually haven't.
And Elliott will be back in a couple weeks. I have to check out his schedule because I'm going to Mardi Gras. Elliott, I'm going to see. I'm addicted. I'm going down to see Susanna Flores again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Always great to have a conversation with you. Thank you, Elliott Serrano, for filling in for me today. Don't forget, of course, tune in to Richard Chu tomorrow morning and Jonas. But just tune in for the whole day. I don't know why you would even. I have this tuned into my. This is all I listen to.
It's great to have him on in the background.
And coming up tomorrow, we are going to talk to Dr. Amy Steele, co-founder of New North Carolina Project. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye, Elliott. Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Bye, Matt. Thank you for helping us.